We have a very interesting story for you right now. You may not know his name, but you know his product. Dr. Lonnie Johnson is the creator of the Super Soaker water gun. And if you grew up at any point in the last couple decades, or you had kids who did, or grandkids, you likely have seen them enjoying them on a hot summer day. Dr. Johnson is not just the Super Soaker creator, though. He holds more than 100 patents. He is a prolific inventor. And he is now working on a new project focused on renewable energy. Our Danielle Nottingham brings us that story.
You've heard of the Super Soaker. Now meet the mind behind it, Dr. Lonnie Johnson.
How does it feel?
Kind of weird, or sometimes I hear people talking about me, or sometimes I'm at an event, people introduce me, and I'm thinking, boy, that guy sounds really cool. I'd like to meet him.
Johnson remembers taking things apart as a child to see what was inside.
So what was that like growing up in Mobile, Alabama, and wanting to be in science and being a young black boy?
I was a kid in the 60s, and that was during the heart of the civil rights movement. As a kid, I used to watch people coming on TV complaining, saying they didn't want their kids going to school with those heathens, those black people, should put them in Sykes and ship them all back to Africa. So I watched all of this on TV and understanding, of course, they were talking about me and people who look like me.
But that didn't stop the future nuclear engineer. As a teen, he built a robot and entered it into a competition.
Now, this was back in '68, just a few years after Governor Wallace had stood at the door there and said no black students would ever attend. And there I was with my robot winning first place. Of course, they didn't ask me about my grades or show any interest in me attending the University of Alabama. And I feel fortunate that they didn't, because I attended Tuskegee.
Johnson went on to work for NASA and the Air Force. The idea for the Super Soaker came while he was inventing a heat pump.
So I made these nozzles, and I had them hooked up to the bathroom sink, and I was doing a little test, and I turned and shot the stream of water across the bathroom. So the stream of water was a very skinny stream of water, kind of like what you see now coming out of Super Soakers. And I thought, geez, this was a lot of fun.
Johnson holds more than 100 patents, including Nerf dart guns and a wet diaper detector. But his next big idea is renewable energy. His team at J-Tech, which includes his son David, is building a system that will convert heat directly into electricity.
If we could reduce our dependence on oil, for example, it would be one less thing for us to fight over. Because a lot of conflicts globally are because of conflicts over energy resources.
What would you say to any future engineers or anyone who wants to, go into science?
People refer to engineers and scientists as, quirky or whatever they call them. What's the expression? A nerd. But these days it's kind of cool to be a nerd.
It is so cool to be a nerd, and the nerds rule the world.
Johnson is on a mission to save it. On the West End, Danielle Nottingham, 11 Alive News.
And Danielle joins us now. Boy, what a story, what a conversation. Danielle, thank you first off for bringing that to us. And I just wonder what stood out to you as you were having that conversation with Dr. Johnson, who has lived such a multifaceted life.
Yeah, one of the things that strikes me, a lot of these figures that we're talking to, they're growing up in a time of segregation, and they want to do these big things, and to live in the South, in the deep South, and still not let that deter you from what you want to do. Just like what I asked him, I'm like, was this always in you? Were you like the little kid building stuff? And he was just like, no, I was the kid taking things apart to see how they work. And that's why he built that robot. And he says, in today's terms, that robot is like a washing machine size.
It looked pretty impressive to me.
But it was pretty impressive. And here you are, you're winning first place at this like national science convention, and the school where it's taking place wouldn't even consider you to be a student there.
And he goes from that background and never let it deter him, to the point, 100 plus patents, as you pointed out. Some really well-known ones. I bet most of the folks who are watching, if you go in your garage, you're going to see some of his work right there. And then he's now working on this incredibly ambitious project tackling one of our most pressing issues.
Yeah, and it's really great because his sons are all engineers too. So his son works with him.
Oh, you're kidding.
Alongside him, yeah.
Wow.
At the place, but he really wants to solve the world's problems. And he says a lot of conflicts we see across the country, what we're seeing right now is about oil. It's about energy. And he was like, if I can take heat, something that's already happening off of factories, off of data centers, if I can translate that into electricity immediately, think about all the energy that is saved, and that could help quell some of the conflicts. So, you know, he's always got something going in his head, as you can see. And the funny thing is, he's got all those patents, but it's like anything we do. Sometimes it's a hit or a miss. And he was like, man, the one he let go, he had some patent about something that helps DVDs, and CDs work. And he was just like, I didn't keep up with the patent. And so I didn't realize if you come up with something, you get a patent. And if other people come up with something, and if you don't challenge it after a certain amount of years, it's fair game. So he's like, that was the one that went away, that got away. But Super Soaker has been very good to him. So
Yeah, there's always one that gets away.
there's always one that gets away. But it was just a lot of fun getting to know how his mind worked.
And he was, I mean, as accomplished as he is, he seemed very humble,
Yeah. Super.
very understated, even as he's sitting in this warehouse that, as I understand, I mean, he spun up, and that's an impressive looking warehouse to tackle these global problems.
It was amazing. We walked in and I was like, I could work here. It's a wonderful space. They just redesigned it on the West End, but I think that's how the science mind works. They see things very neat and orderly. It's structured, but he says that he's not done. And when you think about his background, he worked on, like with NASA, he worked on the Mars rover and the Galileo. He was in the Jet Propulsion Lab for a while. So, you know, he's seen all these things, and he says, I can, when I look at something, I see how it works, and I can see how it could help. And he was like, so just being in there tinkering with a heat pump and seeing the water move, I was like, my kids could do it. And the funny thing is, we didn't have time to get it together to show in there. His son said he would make them save their soda bottles from dinner so he could play around with the design for the Super Soaker. So what we see now, where the water tank was, it would be like a Coke bottle.
Wow.
Attached to something.
And you can see that too if you think about what a Super Soaker looks like. It does have that sort of soda-shaped container on the top for the water.
Yeah.
Danielle, one last question for you, because we're running a little short on time, but I think it's important to end here. You know, in your piece, you really laid out all of the challenges that he faced in his early years, despite all of the very obvious talent and smarts that he brought to the table. Growing up in the Deep South, those opportunities were really hard to come by for him. Obviously, he pushed through that.
Yeah.
Did he give you a sense of what kept him going when he was facing those early setbacks?
He was saying it was his parents. He said his parents shielded him from a lot. And I have parents who grew up in the Deep South during that same time, and they're the same way. I'm like, how did you do anything? I would fall apart. But he was just like, my parents humbled me. They always encouraged me, and I had great people around me. And he credits Tuskegee a lot with his confidence.
And boy, I mean, you look at the impact he has made in the world, in our part of the country, and his
Every
family
child.
too. It sounds like every child, but then here too, it's a family
Yeah.
business. He's
Yeah.
got his sons who are engineers. What a great story, Danielle. As always, thank you so much.
Thank you.